Hi, my name is Angel True, and I'm with True Living Synergy Coaching.
And I'm Mindie Kniss with Kniss Integrative Coaching. We're here today to talk about consciousness, creativity, action, and results, which come together for the Heart of Purpose.
Well, the Heart of Purpose is a conversation with coaches about your work, your spirit, and your life. Every month we take your questions on a new topic, and Mindie and I talk about what we would say about them. This month we're talking about relationships.
And our first question is, how do I effectively erase my barriers to full and ecstatic intimacy if I am single?
That's a really good question. I actually love talking to people about this question, Mindy. I think people have the misperception that intimacy is something we do with other people. And I sort of see three layers to intimacy, and I call it intimacy with self, intimacy with other, and intimacy with community.
Nice.
So just one, two people, and then many people. So what I would say is, the ways to erase the barriers, which is an interesting way to put it. I don't think we ever erase our barriers. I think we reduce our barriers and we learn to deal with the barriers we have, because sometimes barriers are good.
Right.
But what I would talk about with this person is really, what are the struggles that you have with being open with yourself? Where are you not talking to yourself or not being honest with yourself? Where is it that you have tendencies to shy away from in your own, your inner dialogue conversation? And really take the time to get to know yourself, take the time to find out what is important to you, because I think sometimes not knowing what's important to us becomes a barrier for being intimate with other people. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I want this, I don't know if it's something I care about, or if this is the type of person I want to be with, or if this is the community I want to be around. So really taking that time for some introspection. I like having my clients make lists of what's important to them or what they like. I tend to shy away from what they don't like because the negatives just bring on more of the negatives, but it can be helpful in the beginning to say, here's what I don't want. Okay, great, now we're going to cut that out.
Helps you at least get to the point of what do you want.
Right. So that would be my answer, is about taking the time to really get to know yourself, because the more you know yourself, the more you're available to be in those intimate connections.
Yeah, I like everything that you had to say, because that so points out that really we are all connected anyway, regardless of if we recognize that or if we understand that, or the extent to which we understand that, is that we're all connected anyway. So getting to know yourself, and that point of becoming clear, having that clarity of what is it out here that I'm looking for that you may perceive to be outside of a certain barrier that you have set up currently. A lot of that is, again, just perception. Truly, they're you, you're them. The stuff that you are seeing or getting to know about yourself is, what you can find out in the world. So that's really good. Another thing to think about is just the idea that, intimacy doesn't have to be a physical thing.
Right.
So there's intimacy with friendships, with other types of people in your life, and sometimes that's a really good way to practice when it's not necessarily a romantic partner, but looking at the intimacy, like you mentioned, with yourself, but also with the other people in your life that are not in a romantic relationship. So that can be really helpful, just to work on that with friends, colleagues, whomever.
Right, and it actually reminded me of something. I have a workshop where I actually talk about 6 or 7 different types of intimacy.
Nice.
So taking that charge off of intimacy equals sex,
right,
and really breaking that down is an important part. But the one thing that I love to say, and it's a little kitschy phrase, is into me see intimacy. Start with yourself.
I like that.
Start there, and the barriers will fall away for you.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
So our next question, what do you do if you enjoy someone's company and have had a sexual relationship with them, and then discover you're just not feeling that falling in love feeling?
I think one of the first things that I would say is to be really authentic, and to first have that clarity of, am I falling in love with this person? Am I not? And to get that sorted out and straight for yourself, so that you know on which side of that fence you are. Secondly is to be open about that in communication, because I don't think it's helpful to kind of continue on in a relationship if you're really not feeling it, or you're saying, I don't really want this to, I'm not looking to pursue this person or to pursue a relationship with them. So just to be open and honest and authentic with where you're at, and then to be communicating that with that other person.
Right. I think the thought that comes to mind for me is what's your objective in this relationship? And I know that sounds a little kitschy maybe, but getting clear about what you want is really important to knowing whether this is something you continue with. I really like what you had to say about communication. That's always my first answer. Well, first start by talking.
Yeah.
See what happens. Maybe they're not feeling it either.
Exactly.
You could be like, wow, okay, well, problem solved. Do we just keep going where we're at and we're totally okay with that, or are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people get caught in the trap of thinking that a relationship has to go somewhere, and sometimes it might just be someone you really like and really get along with, and that's enough.
Yep.
So that would be what I would add, is just say, if you're not feeling that falling in love feeling, check in with yourself, like you were saying, like get clear about where you're at, communicate it, and see what you guys want together.
Yeah, another thing to add on to that, I was thinking about this when you said, checking in with yourself and getting clear. Sometimes it's helpful to bring in an outside perspective. Mm-hmm. For instance, a friend that maybe knows both of you or something like that, because they will have, potentially an unbiased, or at least not as biased as your own opinion. And just to get some feedback from an outside source can be another effective way to help get that clarity.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say that help doesn't mean you're failing. It doesn't mean you're not succeeding. I had a similar conversation with a friend not too long ago who was really stressed about the challenges in the friendship, and someone was asking, well, what can you do about it? I said, well, I could ask this friend and this friend and this friend to come in and do that for us. And my response was, why do you want a friend who has an investment in both of your relationships and potentially a bias in seeing you together, or maybe not together, you never know, help you out? It can be helpful sometimes, but I really like having a third party, a neutral third party, someone who has experience in dealing with relationships or helping with communication to do that.
Perhaps a coach.
A coach, that would be a great idea.
Crazy.
Yeah, what a fabulous idea. Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunities there, and what it really boils down to is ask for help and communicate, not necessarily in that order.
Sure, and be honest.
Yeah, be honest.
Okay, next question. I have a friend that has a ton of friend girls. I'm one of the 400. I've always been interested in dating him, but have never let him know. How do I approach him and let him know that I'm interested without feeling awkward or ruining the friendship?
Well, what an interesting follow to that previous
right?
question. It comes back to the communication piece again. Up until now, in some sense of the word, she hasn't been honest with him. And maybe it's not a dishonesty, it's just not sharing the real feelings, which happens sometimes, and that's okay. The question that it comes down to is, how much do you want it? How serious are you about wanting to date this person, and how, what do you think this relationship might be? If you're looking for a casual, relationship, go for it. See what happens. If you're wanting it to be more serious, go for it and see what happens. I mean, that's probably going to be my answer no matter what. But how do you go about it without risking the friendship? It comes back to communication again. And I'm always an advocate of honesty, and I always tell people it's better to be honest and have it not work than lie and have it
Absolutely.
work, almost, because then the false